You know, sometimes I feel like the Joker to Hollywood's Batman. I have a feeling you and I are destined to do this forever. So I said the last couple times I had tackled LGBTQ related issues on this channel that I was going to try and do so on a monthly basis. I don't know if I mentioned it specifically, but I am going to make exceptions for news items that crop up that kind of fall under that domain when it comes to LGBTQ plus representation in entertainment and media. And a news story has most definitely broken, and I most definitely have things to say about it, which does mean we're going to swap this look out. So, in case anyone needs the reminder of my dog in this race, my name is Nathaniel. I have a fluid sense of gender. And while I do not normally use the term trans to describe myself, because most folks who use that term mean they are transitioning or hope to transition fully from the gender they were assigned at birth to the one that they indeed are. That is not the case for me. My sense of gender wavers back and forth, but I am still a form of transgender. I do not always identify with the gender I was assigned at birth. So, I'm going to be touching on a topic that I was planning to talk about eventually, but wasn't planning to do for a while, and I still may end up talking about, because I'm going to be talking about the specific thing in terms of the news that broke, but ultimately what I wanted to do with sort of a focus piece on it was do a lot more research, basically, but I'm not going to wait to do that to talk about this. So, if you hadn't heard, Scarlett Johansson was cast in an upcoming film. There was a little bit of a minor bidding war. This isn't, a massive blockbuster film, but this looks to be a planned prestige film. And it's a full film that will be called Rub and Tug. It is inspired by the real-life story of a figure from 1970s and 80s Pittsburgh who went by the name Dante Tex Gill. And this individual ran a string of places of prostitution under the cover of being massage parlors. And again, it's a true story. This individual is deceased, passed away in 2003, and was born Jean Marie Gill. There does not appear to be a confirmed record of actual sex reassignment surgery, but the accounts of all the people who knew this individual say that she wished to be called Mr. Gill. So she is the wrong term. He is the correct term. He is the pronoun that should be used because this was a trans man. And Scarlett Johansson will be playing him in a film directed by Rupert Sanders. So, the casting of cisgender actors and actresses to play transgender parts is by no means a new thing. However, it is something that is starting to get a spotlight shone on it and people going, wait, why are we doing that? Which is what should happen. Now, before I get too much further, I want to acknowledge that there is a justification that can and probably has been given by some for why a cisgender actor would be playing a transgender part, depending on the point in the individual's life that the story takes place. If it takes place partly or even primarily before the transition, they may have appeared more as the gender they were assigned at birth. If it is in some manner a period piece set in a time before the current era of sexual reassignment surgeries and hormone replacement therapies, then they may not have been able to achieve a properly masculine or feminine appearance that would have been to their liking. That comes up in, when you start talking about things like The Danish Girl, Albert Nobbs, Breakfast on Pluto, etc. So I want to acknowledge that there is a rationale that can be given for why cisgender performers are frequently cast in transgender roles. However, it is a rationale, it is an explanation, it is an excuse that I am no longer going to accept. If someone were to say, to try and use the excuse, well, there aren't enough trans actors and actresses. I don't know if anyone is making that excuse, but just in case, anyone claiming that isn't looking. I personally know trans women and trans men who are actors. I know very well a trans man who I saw in a play last month. And I live in Vermont. So you cannot tell me that there are no transgender people trying to make it as actors in Hollywood. So that's just wrong. People may claim that there are no trans actors, certainly no trans men actors, who have the sufficient name recognition to get the project funded. And that is true, but it's also part of the problem, because of course there aren't, because you won't cast them in anything. How are they ever going to build a reputation? Well, you'll even allow them to play themselves if you won't cast them in the first place. It's a similar argument that I actually saw get circulated with Ghost in the Shell, which, yeah, I'll be bringing that up and coming back to it, that there wasn't a Asian or Asian American actress of appropriate age with sufficient box office clout for a film as expensive as that was going to be. And whether or not that was true was debatable, but it illustrates the problem, because you're saying you won't cast people because they aren't names, but they're not names because you won't cast them. So that's an excuse that I'm not accepting anymore. There is the simple fact that in these various projects, the cis performers who are cast as trans people, there is always some degree of transformation applied to them, some degree of makeup or prosthetics used to make cis women appear more masculine, to make cis men appear more feminine. Why can we not do the opposite? Why can we not take a trans man actor and use that same makeup and prosthetics to make them appear more feminine if the story calls for that? And that's setting aside the fact that I don't know if people not who don't have a ton of familiarity with the trans community even realize this. Not all transgender people pass as the gender they identify as. Even some who have had full sex reassignment surgery and years of hormone replacement therapy, many do not pass at a look as appearing to have been born as the gender they identify as. So you can't really use that excuse either. However, this particular instance is more than just another example of an ongoing issue because of the people involved. I mentioned Ghost in the Shell already. Ghost in the Shell, the live action version, was the center of more than a little bit of controversy over the casting of Scarlett Johansson in the lead role, a role of Major Motoko Kusanagi, a role written as a Japanese character. And I don't want to rehash that specific argument, because regardless of whether or not you feel that that was a choice that was justified or you think that was completely wrong, regardless, there was an uproar. And it may have even hurt the box office, because that movie did not do well. So to see not only Scarlett Johansson, but the director of that film, Rupert Sanders, same director from Ghost in the Shell, the director on this new project, the same performer-director pair from that controversy, casting a cisgender performer as a trans person, not even trans character, real-life trans person. The lack of self-awareness is astounding. And Scarlett Johansson has actually responded to this through a representative. Her representative, supposedly speaking on her behalf with her words, said, and I'm going to quote, because when I get angry about these things, I want to get angry over people's exact words and not what was reported as the gist of it. In response to the casting and the initial pushback, Scarlett Johansson, via a representative, told Bustle that any questions, quote, can be directed to Jeffrey Tambor, Jared Leto, and Felicity Huffman's reps for comment. Some context in case you don't know what she actually meant by that. Jared Leto won an Academy Award for playing a trans woman in Texas Buyers Club, a movie I have not seen. Felicity Huffman was nominated for an Academy Award for playing a trans woman in Transamerica, a film I have not seen. Jeffrey Tambor played the lead role in the Amazon Prime television show Transparent, which I have not seen. Or he did until recently when he was fired for harassing a transgender member of the production crew. So citing him at all, a little bit in bad taste. But even setting that aside, you can't just cite how something that is not okay was not made as big a deal of publicly before as an excuse to keep doing it. People getting away with something that is wrong up to this point is not a reason to keep doing it. At least in the instances of those, because even Transparent, which feels very recent, it's what, going into its 5th season? So this is years in. There is an argument to be made, I don't know if I'd buy it, but there was an argument to be made that in those instances, and some of the other ones I've cited, that not as many people knew better. More people should know better now. And again, you can't just cite precedent of people being allowed to do something that you're getting called out on. That doesn't suddenly make it okay. They got away with it. I'm sorry if you feel it's unfair that you're not going to get away with it. But it wasn't okay then, it's not okay now. I'm sorry that you feel persecuted by that, but this is the reality, all right? If a white actor was cast to play a black role in blackface, not as an ironic commentary on anything, just so they could play a black person, and if that actor or director or studio or anyone tried to excuse that as being okay by citing that it was okay when Al Jolson did it in The Jazz Singer, they would rightfully be called out on that as spouting utter bullshit, which is what this is. I like you very much, Scarlett Johansson. You are a very talented actress, but this is bullshit. You cannot take away our stories. We have stories to be told. What little I could find out about this person, about this man, about Dante Texgill is fascinating and could make for an amazing movie, and a movie worth telling. But you can't take our stories to tell them for us when we're not asking you to, and think that that's okay. If you want to help us tell our stories, because to be blunt about it, you have resources we don't, most of us, If you want to help us tell our stories, that would be amazing. But you can't take our stories from us, exclude us from the process, and then just tell those stories on our behalf. It's not okay. And if you want to tell me that the only way that this film could be financed is with someone like Scarlett Johansson's name on it, fine, but don't have her play the trans man part. Again, very preliminary research that I did into this individual. He had a girlfriend who was central to his life. Have Scarlett Johansson play her. And then find a talented trans man actor, because I know they exist. I've met them, and I'm not even in Hollywood. And let us be involved in the telling of our stories. This, as I said, the overall premise and the overall topic of cisgender performers playing transgender characters is something I am going to revisit, because I want to do something more focused, more researched, more coherent, possibly, than this video is going to end up being. But I couldn't wait to do that background research to talk about this now. And I, as a general rule, make a very strong point of not wishing ill on anyone. It's something that I implore from my commenters, and it's the kind of stuff I have to delete from the comment section most frequently, are personal attacks. So I won't do that. I won't attack the individuals involved. I will say that some of them absolutely should know better, but I'm not going to wish ill on them. I am, however, going to hope for the failure of this project. I hope that the pushback is so harsh that the financiers, that new Regency, the studio that picked it up, gets cold feet and drops the project, and that in this form it collapses. I don't want to see a trans story that does not involve a trans performer. I don't. I just don't anymore. And that's not to say that there haven't been instances of it, quote unquote, being done well. As I said, most of the things I cited, I haven't seen. They're frankly not my type of movies. They may have been done well. I'm not saying they're bad films. But I'm not going to say that, oh, it's okay because it's been okay. It wasn't okay then. It's really not okay now. And before anyone tries to say to me, you know, they're actors. They're supposed to be able to play things other than themselves. You know, there are times that gay performers play straight. Straight performers play gay. Performers all the time perform as people of a certain religion that they themselves are art, with a family history and a background that they don't have. Why is this different? And all things being equal, it wouldn't be. But that's the thing. All things aren't equal. When a cisgender person is cast to tell the story of a transgender person, not only are they taking our stories away from us, they are depriving struggling, talented transgender performers from work. So until we are in such a state as transgender performers are regularly cast in cisgender roles, this will not be okay. If and when we ever live in that world, then by all means, then you can have your cisgender performers in your transgender roles. But that is absolutely not the world we live in right now. And in the world we live in right now, I'm not okay with this. And I won't be okay with this. And I hope that every instance and attempt at doing this gets pushback, gets backlash, and fails. Ideally, fails to even finish being made. Short of that, fails at the box office. Even if it's a good movie, I don't care. Stop excluding us. Because every now and then when I talk about representation for LGBTQ, there are people who kind of shake their finger at me and say, don't demand representation. Go out and do it yourself. We're trying. We would like to. But our opportunities aren't presented to us. And most of us don't have the resources to make these things on our own. So that, I think, is where I'm going to end this particular ramble. I think I actually kept much calmer than I expected to. Because when I first read and heard about this, I had some errands to run and I was screaming in my car. So for how upset I actually am by this, I think I kept it fairly calm. What are your thoughts on this casting and the response from Scarlett Johansson's representative? Whatever your thoughts are, please be respectful to the people involved, to me. No personal attacks, please, because I will delete comments. But short of that, whatever your thoughts are, whether you agree with me or not, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. There's all the stuff to do. You can support me on Patreon to try and make this bigger and better. You can follow me on Twitter. I have another YouTube channel devoted more specifically to my gender fluidity. I'll link to that below. And links for all this stuff and even more will be down in the description. So until next time, this council is adjourned.